Hello, and welcome to another edition of Riding in Cars with Researchers. I'm Dr. Jeff Kingsley. Today we are going to talk about the fact that physicians and patients aren't communicating. That's a problem, and it's impacting clinical research. I read a wonderful research article this morning on non-small cell lung cancer. I'll post the link to the article at the end of today's video. The article was on non-small cell lung cancer, and the authors looked at two things. They looked at the survival rates of patients that entered clinical trials versus patients who didn't enter clinical trials. And they looked at the beliefs of the physicians, the research staff, on why some patients didn't go into research trials versus what the patients said. So here's the upside. The patients that entered clinical research trials for non-small cell lung cancer, phase 1, 2, 3, randomized, a full breadth of different types of research trials. The patients that entered research trials for non-small cell lung cancer had two times their survival rates of the patients that didn't enter research trials. Massive difference. And now they're doing follow-up research to look at the why. One of the things that you've heard me say many times in the past is that patients get far more healthcare in a research trial than they get outside of a research trial. They get more labs, more in oncology, more CT scans or MRIs or PET scans, more genetic analyses. They're looked at much more closely. They get more robust healthcare as a result. Is that the reason? Possibly. Could be other things. Could be the fact that it was the cutting edge of medicine. But regardless, clearly, twice improved survival in patients that entered research trials versus patients who didn't. Now, then they looked at the patients who didn't, and they asked the physicians and research coordinators, the staff that were dealing with those patients, why didn't they? Why didn't they enter the trials? And they asked multiple different varieties of questions. So what percent influence do you think racial bias has in a patient's desire to go into a research trial? They asked questions about patients' beliefs about the safety of research trials. They asked questions about patients' beliefs about the riskiness of research trials. They asked about whether or not patients believe that research is only a last resort. Once you're out of all other options, that's the only time you should go into a research trial. And here are the results that they found. Massive discrepancy between what the physicians thought and what the patients thought. Like, huge. So I don't have the numbers in front of me because I am driving a car. But there were questions where the physicians said 61% of patients would believe blah, blah, blah. And they asked the patients the question, and it was like 8.1% of patients believed that thing. Not even remotely close. Discrepancy with the biases that physicians believe patients have that would prevent them from going into a research trial, and the biases that patients actually have. Now, why do I find this fascinating? Well, because the biases we harbor influence our behavior. If you believe that your patient isn't going to want to go into a research trial because your patient is of African descent, well, guess what? It's going to come out in your words, your body language, your something. And in fact, your patient is less likely to say yes because they sensed something. It's just so critical that physicians and patients begin to talk to one another so that we can get on the same page. If we can lower these biases that physicians have about why patients would say no to a research trial, we will in fact enhance patients saying yes to research trials, and we will open doors to patients that right now are closed. My thoughts for the morning. I greatly appreciate it. Remember, I will put the link to the article. I think you should read the article. It's very brief and very interesting. I'll put the link at the end. Follow us on all the social media channels because it helps us get these messages to other people that need to read them. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Click all the little buttons. I greatly appreciate it. Keep giving me your ideas, your suggestions. I look forward to seeing you at future conferences. I'll be speaking at another 3 or 4 through the remainder of this year. Thanks for riding along. Take care.